I told my girlfriend I'll keep honoring my best friend's dying wish even if it makes her uncomfortable. My late best friend and I knew each other since we were little. We were next door neighbors and played together every day. We even went to the same kindergarten, elementary school, middle and high school together. One day during our sophomore year, we started talking about how most of our classmates and friends had started dating. We obviously weren't okay with that. Me and her decided it was time to one-up on all of them by getting married. As a joke, I made a fake ring for her and she gave me her scrunchie. A few weeks later, she got into a really bad accident. She sustained multiple injuries and was in the ICU for over 2 months. The doctor informed her family that her survival chances are very slim. In the only time I talked to her before she passed, we made a promise that I will always visit her on our wedding anniversary, and to wear her scrunchie during the visit. A couple of years ago when I started dating my girlfriend, I told her about it and asked if she was okay with it. She commented about how sweet and nice the tradition was and told me she was perfectly fine with it. Today was the 10th anniversary and I called in to take a day off from work. Before my girlfriend went to work, she told me it's time to put this tradition to rest and just move on, because it was starting to get really pathetic that I still wear a deceased girl's scrunchie to celebrate a fake marriage that we had 10 years ago. I've never expected such a thing from my girlfriend. I was furious at her comments because she wasn't just a girl who passed away, she was my best friend and like a sister to me. We did everything together growing up. And it seems like my girlfriend doesn't even care how I feel. I told my girlfriend a long time ago that we never had a romantic relationship and that our wedding was just a joke between us. It's not like I talk about her or keep her photos around the house or anything similar. The only times I've talked about her to my girlfriend is when I asked her if she was okay with the tradition or if she asked me about her. I keep all of my emotions bottled up, and I miss her every day. When I told her that I'll keep honoring my best friend's dying wish, even if it made her uncomfortable, she left for work angry at me and hasn't came back home yet. So am I the jerk? I told my sister-in-law no one cares that she's pregnant. Now my whole world is falling apart. My cousin, 33 female, who I'll call Mary, lost her husband, and 2 of her 3 children, in a car accident last week. Her and her daughter are as you would expect and it's just so heartbreaking to see. Well, today was the funeral and my brother's wife announced her pregnancy the second they arrived at our house this morning. We were like, okay, congratulations, but please keep it on the down low for today. Because there is obviously a time and place for that sort of thing. Well, when we arrived at the church, she kept making gagging sounds and rubbing on her stomach saying, I as a mom can't imagine what she's going through. They have no kids so people would be confused and would look at her, which is when she'd tell them she was pregnant. Afterwards, at my aunt's house, my sister-in-law kept making everything about her. Someone was in the bathroom and my sister-in-law would loudly say, pregnant lady needs to go number 1. She literally told my cousin to give up her seat so the lady that is pregnant could rest her feet. She was going around asking to take people's food from their plates because of her pregnancy cravings, and so much more. She had to be the number 1 priority, even though poor Mary just lost her children. I completely ignored her until she came up to Mary, stuck out her flat belly and said, me and Isaac just found out I was pregnant and honestly we are speechless that something like this could happen to us. Mary broke down crying. I couldn't hold it anymore, I snapped. Who says that to a woman who just literally lost 2 of her babies? No one gives an F if you're pregnant. Look around, it's not just 1 but 2 babies' funerals, not to mention the love of Mary's life. Like, I knew you were a little attention seeker but for God's sake you took the test 4 days ago. She left in tears and my brother called me a bitter B-word. I've gotten several phone calls from my brother and my sister-in-law's family calling me every word of names you could think of because I made a pregnant woman cry. Most of my family is starting to cut contact with me. Mary and my aunt greatly thanked me, but if I'm being honest, I feel bad about causing such a scene. So am I the jerk?
I gave my mother-in-law a fake copy of our house key and exposed her at Christmas dinner. I married my husband last year. His mom is extremely snoopy and annoying as F. She can't help it and it's just how she is, as my lovely in-laws say. So my husband and I moved into a new house recently and my mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency house key that she can use. She promised us that she would only use the key for an emergency, but given the fact that she had a key for our old apartment and she walked in on us being intimate twice, I was sure I did not want to give her a key. It wasn't out of the ordinary for her to just barge in during any waking moment. But, my husband didn't think it was a big deal, and ensured me to just give her the key. I just felt like I couldn't trust this woman but since she kept pushing, I gave in and gave her a key. But little did she know, I had sent her a fake key, and no one knew besides me. She had the most smug look on her face when I hand-delivered her the key. She was so happy to take back her control. So weeks go by, and on Christmas dinner my mother-in-law angrily calls me out in front of the entire family that I gave her a fake key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everybody, and told everybody how disrespectful I am. So in my defense I asked her how she'd found out it was fake. She said that her and her husband were out while me and my husband weren't home, and wanted to come inside the house and take a look. So at that point I reminded her, didn't you say you would only use it if there was an emergency? So basically you tried to get in when there was no emergency, breaking the promise that you made to us. She started to go red in the face and everyone started to stare at her. Some of the family even laughed at her for how red she was. She then got up from her seat and ran into the bathroom where she had the biggest meltdown I've ever seen. I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum. I mean, she was literally crying and screaming so loud that the neighbors knocked on the door to see if everything was alright. My husband and his sisters kept giving me looks and then my husband screamed at me in the car. He called me a liar and said I humiliated and manipulated his mom. He is now demanding that I apologize to his mom and accusing me of ruining Christmas dinner because of my childish behavior.
I told the truth at my best friend's wedding. I'm glad I ruined their marriage. I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend got married last week. Me and my wife just bought a house and we are expecting our son in November, so I let him know that I was fairly limited in what I could contribute financially. But I did tell him I would try my very best. So I went to the bachelor party in Miami. I paid the rental for my tux and paid for me and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal. I brought my gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but I'll get to why I later refused to give it to them. His fiancée at the time would text me multiple times per day with several updates. Fine, I didn't always respond and it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. She texted me for the following reasons. 1. My wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy, not even a word. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. 2. She was not going to order any special foods for my wife. I never asked her to and neither did my wife. 3. I was not helping the groom enough. I had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs. 4. She said if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the whole bar bill. I literally don't even know what that means. 5. She must read and approve my speech before the rehearsal dinner, and she had to be included just as much as my buddy, and to make things up if I had to. I was prohibited to include anyone but the two of them and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't involve her. 6. Her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Which she already said, but I guess one time isn't enough. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible, and to pick a dress that didn't look good because it will make her look better when she sits next to her. I was just so aggravated I spoke to my buddy to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play along this one time, it's her day and to cut him a break because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. The day of, all the bride and my best friend did is scold me, berate me, and just make me feel terrible about myself. I head down to the bar for the drink. The bride's mother is there and tells me to stop drinking because I ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw for me. I didn't give them the card with the cash and in the speech I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished him the best and told him I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. Fast forward and it's been 8 months now. I have pretty much lost all of my friends since then, and I was in fact not there for him during his divorce. I told my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed until her family gets kicked out. My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his ugly divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with my wife and I, bringing his twin daughters, Olivia and Sophia, with him. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along decently. The problem is Olivia and Sophia have absolutely no respect for Zoe's privacy. They would walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Clothes, makeup, her phone, accessories, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot about this, and I've already asked the girls to be respectful of Zoe's privacy. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. They thought that they're teenage girls and this is typical behavior. I completely disagreed. The last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 makeup kit that she saved up over a month for. One of the girls, Sophia, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed, and was crying. I told my wife I got Zoe a lock after I found she started moving valuable belongings out of the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't pleased. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it, so I straight up told him why. He said that his daughters aren't thieves and it's normal that girls of the same age will borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and it's wrong for her to be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place. He suggested my wife should take care of this defect in Zoe's personality because she's obviously just trying to appear older and bigger than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but even my wife shamed me for putting the lock on Zoe's door. She accused me of trying to prevent the cousins from spending time with each other, and saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kicked them out and said her family'll hate me for this. I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something their own family even refused to do. I did something for them that nobody else ever did. So she should start with shaming them for not taking their own son and nieces and granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help we wouldn't be dealing with as much disturbance at home.
My husband threw a barbecue party for his friends, so I refused to help and made sure it was a disaster. My husband prides himself on his barbecue skills. The thing is, I always end up doing everything. He buys and preps the meat and then grills and serves it and collects praise for all of his barbecue skills. I have to buy all the drinks, plates, and clean up the patio. I even prepare the sides, veggies, and refill everyone's drinks. We don't use paper plates or plastic cups since I find it wasteful. So to keep the main table tidy, it is non-stop work for me. He just told me last week that he invited his friends for Saturday, which was yesterday. He announced it without ever asking me. I said to myself, well, okay. Do I know anyone? Nope. All of his workmates are coming and they won't be bringing their spouses. My husband calls it a guys' night. I said, okay then, guys' night? Well, enjoy yourselves. I'll be in my craft room working on some of my projects. He said he will handle it. Spoiler alert, he in fact did not handle it. He got the meat all right, but just ignored any other preparation. I was just so sick and tired of being taken for granted, so I didn't bother to help. He never asks me for help. I just do stuff. So this time I didn't do anything. The patio was a mess. The table was never wiped down. Stuff lying all around. His friends finally came, so I welcomed them, but quickly excused myself to my craft room, put on some music worked, and tried to enjoy my peace. Cue the messages. He started asking for help, like, where are the plates? Where are the cups? Where are the sides? I just reminded him that he said he would handle it himself. I checked on them a couple hours later and it was a disaster. Table all cluttered. They ordered some takeout as sides. There weren't enough dishes and silverware. Someone had to go drive for drinks. Fast forward to the next day, he was all grumpy and actually told me that he is disappointed that I didn't pull my weight and I made our family look sloppy. I told him that he is a big guy and that if he embarrassed himself in front of his workmates, then that's on him. Shame me for working a loser job? Fine, I'll just buy your dream car. I, 25-year-old female, work a corporate job at the biggest fast food chain. I won't say the exact title, but I don't work at an office and spend most of my time visiting and coaching stores and associates. Because of this, my entire family is under the impression that I have a loser job, despite the fact that I'm making well over $100,000 a year. I think this perception is exasperated by the fact that I'm typically a frugal person who doesn't tend to surround myself with expensive things. My cousin, 30-year-old male, is a physics professor and has done little to hide the fact that he looks down upon me because of my job. From what I understand, we make similar money, but he's still paying off his doctorate degree, while I never went to college. But he has a much bigger house and mortgage with 2 kids. I'm child-free. Meaning, I have much more disposable income than he does. For the past 3 years, he's been talking about how he really wants his dream car, a Tesla Model X. He's slowly been saving money for it but has nowhere close to the amount of money. He'll joke about how much he wants it by describing how he sees it in his dreams every night in exquisite detail. Well, a couple months back while we were at my mom's birthday party, my cousin made yet another backhanded joke saying I'll never get a real job, and we'll never make real money. This was the last straw. I was so beyond pissed and went back home immediately after the party and ordered a Tesla Model X for myself, exactly to the specifications he has been describing for the past 3 years. A couple of weeks ago it arrived. I picked up my brand new car and brought it home. I didn't tell a single soul in my family that I bought it, but yesterday I made plans to pick up my cousin's son to babysit him, so I knew it was finally time. I rolled up to my cousin's house in my shiny new Tesla Model X, that has been washed and polished just that morning specifically for this meetup. Needless to say, cousin was pissed. He asked me all about it with strained enthusiasm and got visibly more angry the more he noticed it was exactly like the one he wanted. After fumbling around his words and visibly sweating, he tried to make a comment about how it must have been an adventure to find a bank willing to give you a loan so big. I laughed him off and casually told him I wouldn't know since I paid in cash, which is 100% true. He questioned me, so I pulled up a picture on my phone of the title with my name on it. I think that was what broke him because he quickly ended the conversation and went back inside. Now I'm getting messages from his siblings saying how I'm so petty. And while I adore my new Tesla Model X, getting back at my cousin wasn't as satisfying as I thought I'd be. Now I'm really starting to think I'm the jerk. So am I? My family shamed me for having my wedding in sign language, so I matched their energy. I'm 24, female, deaf, and growing up my parents never taught me sign language and never immersed me into my culture as a deaf person. They were actually pretty against me using ASL at all. Well, in high school, I took ASL against my parents' wishes, which got me into a deaf university. Although I couldn't sign fluently when I started, I finally found a place that made me feel accepted and understood. The deaf community was nothing but welcoming. I had no idea how alone I felt until I didn't feel that way anymore. I met my fiancé at college. He is from a very large family of deaf people and everyone is fluent in sign language. We've been together 3 years now. He proposed last May. We've been planning the wedding and have decided that it would be fully in ASL. My extended family of hearing people is very small. We decided to get an interpreter for the hearing people so everyone would know what was going on. We wanted everyone to feel included. Our wedding is in August, so we just sent the invites. The invite mentions that it will be in ASL but we'll have an interpreter for those who are signing impaired, which we thought would be a funny joke. As soon as the invited went out, my mom immediately started texting me and tried to convince me that it should be in English and have an ASL interpreter. I feel like it's our wedding, so we should have it in our language that we understand. My mom thinks that since we are in America, English should be the first language. And anyone who doesn't choose to get cured, aka get an implant, should get an interpreter. She also said it was disrespectful to say signing impaired. I don't think she realizes the irony as she always refers to me as hearing impaired. My mom also says that the deaf people should be used to having interpreters, whereas she's never had one before. The rest of my family that isn't hearing impaired has came out against me. They're telling me how disrespectful I am for inviting people to a wedding that isn't their first language. Fine, I retracted the invites from every person who complained. I made sure to hire security at my wedding so everyone that came crawling back was immediately kicked off the premises. Yes, even my own mother. I cut contact with most of my family and will be moving out of state within the next 4 months. Am I the jerk?